you are watching Shalom World News. I'm Rory McLennan coming to you from Glasgow, Scotland. Here are the latest headlines from around the world. Pope Francis wrote a message to the suffering Ukrainian people on Friday, November the 25th, as the Russian invasion entered its 9th month. The pontiff showed support for the women, children and old people who had to endure the hardships of war in his message. The Pope said there was never a day when he was not close to them. He said he was carrying them in his heart and in his prayer, adding that he was uniting his tears with them. The Pope has made numerous calls for peace since the start of the conflict, including fruitless attempts to contact Russian President Vladimir Putin through diplomatic channels. Little progress was made in his attempts to arrange a meeting with Russian Orthodox Patriarch Kirill to find a means of announcing a ceasefire. Pope Francis expressed his concern about the rise in violence and bloodshed between Palestine and Israel over the past few months. He made his concerns clear as he led the recitation of the Angelus prayer on Sunday. The pontiff mentioned the horrific attacks that occurred last Wednesday in Jerusalem, which resulted in the death of an Israeli child, with several others being injured. He also pointed out that a Palestinian boy was killed in an armed conflict the same day in Nablus. The Holy Father also expressed his desire for the Israeli and Palestinian authorities to take to heart the need for dialogue and mutual trust building, which are crucial for achieving peace in the Holy Land. He also urged everyone to remember in their prayers the people of the Italian island of Ischia who are recovering from flooding and mudslides. The natural disasters left 2 people dead and 11 others are missing. Bishop Noel Treanor of Down and Connor has been nominated by Pope Francis as the Apostolic Nuncio to the European Union. The prelate will continue to govern the diocese as Apostolic Administrator until he takes up the appointment in Brussels in mid to late January in 2023. Meanwhile, the Irish Catholic Bishops' Conference President, Archbishop Eamon Martin of Armagh, has offered his congratulations to Bishop Treanor. Archbishop Martin said that Bishop Treanor was very much involved in the work of the Church in the European Union and at the pan-European level. He is also Vice President of the Bishops' Conferences of the European Union. In a statement, Bishop Treanor said his appointment comes at a time when the world and the EU in particular face big challenges. He said he had the task of fostering peace and goodwill among people and nations during times of war and political and economic instability. The Holy See has released a statement expressing surprise and regret over the installation ceremony of Bishop Giovanni Pengwei Zhao of Yujiang in Jiangxi province in China. This is considered a move that could sour the already strained Sino-Vatican relations. The Vatican does not acknowledge this diocese. According to the provisional agreement on the appointment of bishops of September the 22nd, 2018, the Holy See made it clear that the bishop's so-called installation did not reflect the spirit of dialogue that was supposed to exist between the two sides. The Vatican said in its statement that strong pressure from local authorities led to the acceptance of the bishop. The Holy See expressed hope that similar occurrences wouldn't happen again. It also reiterated its desire to continue dialogue on issues of mutual interest. After a ballot that allowed the Michigan Constitution to permit abortion on demand, Archbishop Alan Vigneron of Detroit urged Catholics to spend the first 2 weeks of Advent in penance. The day after Proposition 3 received 56.7% of votes, the prelate penned a letter addressing believers. He underlined the importance of offering pregnant women in need help during times of crisis. He wrote that in response to the passing of Proposal 3, we must step forward with no judgment, open arms and effective resources to help women reject the so-called solution of death and empower them to choose life for their children. This year, as part of the Detroit Archdiocese I Am Here campaign, special Eucharistic Holy Hours will be offered at 7 p.m. every day during Advent. Chaldean Catholic Patriarch Cardinal Louis Raphael Sacco has expressed deep concern over the continuing mass migration of Christian families from northern Iraq and the Nineveh Plains. In a statement, he said every month at least 20 Christian families were fleeing the Middle Eastern country. He said over half of Iraqi Christians have departed in the last 5 years, and many more are now on the waiting list. The Chaldean Patriarch drew attention to the numerous sociological, political and environmental factors that contributed to the slow and silent exodus of Christians. He cited social and political instability, unrest, lack of equal opportunities, workplace discrimination and the lack of legal protections as the reasons for the mass migration. Italian Minister for Culture, Gennaro Sangiuliano, has endorsed the candidacy for the inclusion of the devotion of St. Januarius in Naples and around the world in UNESCO's Intangible Heritage List. The minister said that St. Januarius is a symbol of the Neapolitan tradition and an entity that is heeded all over the world. Pitching for the candidacy started from the Neapolitan Curia and other associations that honour the memory of the saint, whose congealed blood miraculously liquefies 3 times a year. The devotion towards the patron of Naples is not just confined to the Italian city. Around 20 million people celebrate his feast in the United States, Germany, France, Canada, the United Kingdom, Spain and in Brazil. On his feast day of September the 19th, there is a big celebration in New York City. The campaign is founded by the Campania region and the Federico II University. In a rare display of populist rage against the government, hundreds of people demonstrated against China's zero-COVID policy on Sunday in the nation's large cities. The public is becoming increasingly frustrated with China's strict anti-virus policies as they grow weary of sudden lockdowns, protracted quarantines and widespread testing operations. A fatal fire that occurred on Thursday in Urumqi, the regional capital of Xinjiang in northwestern China, has reignited public unrest. Many accuse COVID lockdowns of impeding rescue attempts. Hundreds of people massed outside Urumqi's government offices after the deadly fire, chanting "Lift lockdowns." During the weekend, there were protests in other major cities as well. China reported 39,506 domestic COVID-19 cases on Sunday, that being a record high, but tiny compared to caseloads in the West at the height of the pandemic. As the junta intensifies its attacks in Myanmar's Bamar majority region, hundreds of homes in the Catholic town of Mon Hla in central Sagaing were destroyed. They include the ancestral residence of Cardinal Charles Bo of Myanmar. It was gutted in the air raids on November the 24th. Uncertainty surrounds the precise number of homes that were burned, as well as whether the St. Michael Church, the convent, and the priest's home in the village were also set ablaze. After fighting broke out between the military and People's Defence Forces near Mon Hla, numerous junta personnel were killed. The air raids were in retaliation for the killings. The villages of Mon Hla, Chang Ho and Chan Thar are home to the Bayingi, who are descended from Portuguese explorers who came to the area in the 16th and 17th centuries and married local women. The villages have produced many bishops, priests and nuns. Apart from the Cardinal, Archbishop Marco Tin Win of Mandalay also belongs to Mon Hla. Nigerian Christian leaders have clarified that their recent discussions with presidential contenders for the February 2023 general elections were not an endorsement. According to reports, meetings between members of the Christian Association of Nigeria and the presidential hopefuls began on November the 16th. According to CAN officials, the sessions are designed to make sure that each candidate is aware of the issues facing Nigerian Christians. 18 candidates have started campaigning ahead of the poll in which the most populous nation in Africa will choose its representatives and senators. CAN also wished all the presidential candidates safety and security as they campaign vigorously for votes over the next 3 months. Given the dire situation in Iran, Amnesty International has praised the creation of a fact-finding team to probe human rights violations during the ongoing protests. Amnesty's Secretary-General Agnes Callamard said, "The cries of the Iranian people for justice have finally been heard." Her statement came in response to the United Nations Human Rights Council's announcement on Thursday that the landmark resolution regarding the probe had been approved. It not only increases the level of international scrutiny of the grave circumstances, but also establishes a procedure for gathering, assembling and preserving essential evidence for subsequent prosecutions. The fact-finding trip is being held after the custodial death of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini triggered widespread protests against the government and against unjust laws. Amnesty stated that during the negotiations for the resolution, Iranian authorities persisted in rejecting the recommendations of UN experts and human rights groups. This Christmas, the balconeras, or pictures of the nativity scene, are making their way to Argentina at the initiative of the Vicariate Centre of the Archdiocese of Buenos Aires. This is being done to put Christ once again at the centre of the celebration. A picture of the nativity scene is to be displayed on doors, windows, balconies, stained glass windows, counters or automobiles to serve as a visual reminder that Christmas is about Jesus. Balconeras are 28 by 16-inch fabric panels with an image of Mary and Joseph holding the infant Jesus in a manger that is frequently hung on balconies that face the street. In Nigeria, a priest who had been kidnapped by suspected gunmen in Nasarawa State was released on Monday. This was revealed in a Facebook post. Father Peter Abang Ochang, the parish priest of St. Stephen Roman Catholic Mission Church in Ogoya Diocese, was released, having been taken hostage by armed men, along with members of the St. Jude Society of the parish. However, their whereabouts remain unknown. While being attacked, the priest and an unknown number of faithful were travelling to Abuja State to participate in ecclesiastical events. Police officials from both states have not released a statement regarding the incident. In a separate incident, at least 60 people in Zamfara State were taken hostage on November the 24th. In the West African nation, armed gangs commit robberies or kidnappings for ransom, and they are on the rise. Their main targets are school children, Catholic religious, and civilians. And those are your latest headlines. Do join us again tomorrow for more. And do remember, you can always visit swnews.org for more updates. Shalom.